In this DNA discovery, our client Mary was born to a single mother in London in 1948 at the Salvation Army Mothers Hospital in Hackney on the 22nd of December. She was adopted by Ethel and Bill Smith and grew up in Beckenham, Kent. Mary met Frank when she was 19 and married him 2 years later. Daughter Julie came along soon after and Mary doted on her. Now 74, widowed and a grandmother of 2, Mary often wonders where she came from. Who was the mother that travelled to Hackney just before Christmas in 1948 and gave her up for adoption? Does her father even know she exists? Desperate for answers, Mary contacted us to help her find out who her biological parents were. Her only hope was through DNA testing, and we supported Mary in setting up an account and registering her test kit with Ancestry DNA, so she could finally discover where her origins began. Mary's DNA results clearly showed that her parents were of Scottish origin with some Irish and a little Welsh. Her DNA journeys indicated that her ancestors originated in the Northwest Highlands on one side and Northeast Scotland on the other. More specifically, one side of her family were from the Isle of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides and the other from Aberdeenshire. Ancestry DNA provided Mary with over 32,000 DNA matches, with almost 19,000 of them on her mother's side. It was her mother that hailed from the Isle of Lewis, and thanks to some DNA matches who were second cousins, we were able to identify Mary's great-grandparents on her mother's side. With a review of all the family trees available from second cousins once removed and third cousins, we were able to complete both sides and identify Mary's mother, who was also named Mary. Mary MacDonald was born on the Isle of Lewis in 1926 to Angus MacDonald and Catherine MacLeod. Mary was given the contact details of a first cousin by one of her DNA matches who told her that in 1948 her mother was working in the fishing industry in the port of Stornoway, the main town on the island, when she suddenly left for a job in London. Mary's father's family was much more difficult to decipher as she only had third cousins or more distant on her paternal side. After reviewing the closest DNA matches, Mary's 2 times great-grandparents on one side of her father's family were identified. Edward Stewart and Elizabeth Donald lived in Inverurie, Aberdeenshire. They had 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls, so one of them was a great-grandparent of Mary. Using all the third and fourth cousins in Ancestry DNA, we were able to eliminate all the branches from Edward and Elizabeth that were too distant to be close relatives of Mary. This left just one branch, that of Charles Stewart, which still required verifying. It was hoped that Charles would turn out to be Mary's great-grandfather. Mary did have one third cousin that did not share any connections with the Stewart family. The cousin, Cathy Reardon, had Indian heritage, a lot of Irish DNA, but her family tree was relatively small with little information. However, there was a Scottish name in it that may be a clue: Mackintosh. Charles Stewart's daughter Margaret married a John Mackintosh in 1920 and had a daughter Janet and son James. James, born in 1925, was now a possibility as Mary's father. All we had to do was to connect him to Cathy Reardon, and we would then have DNA matches on both James's parents' sides and he'd be confirmed as Mary's father. Obtaining James's birth certificate from the Scottish records, it was found that he was born in Aberdeen and his father John was a tram car conductor and mother Margaret a housewife. John Mackintosh died in 1926 of tuberculosis when James was just 1 year old. His death certificate revealed he was the son of Alexander Mackintosh and Sarah O'Connell. Further investigations revealed that Alexander was a company sergeant major in the Royal Engineers and was based at the Curragh camp in County Kildare, Ireland in 1875 when he married 17-year-old local girl Sarah. They had 3 children in Ireland before Alexander retired from the army and moved his family back to Aberdeen, where they had 4 more, including John Mackintosh, father of James Mackintosh. At this stage we were looking to build Mary's tree back to her 2 times great-grandparents on the Mackintosh side, as Cathy Reardon matched as a third cousin on Ancestry. However, the shared DNA may also mean that they were half-second cousins. A search through the newspaper archives revealed that it was highly likely that Mary and Cathy were in fact half-second cousins, as their fathers were half-brothers. Alexander's obituary in the Aberdeen Press and Journal revealed that one of his sons was the manager of a rubber plantation in India. This was the link we were looking for, as Kathy's mother had been born in India and had no other connections to Scotland. Gordon was the son identified as the rubber plantation manager through passenger lists and industry directories from the 1920s. Gordon McIntosh was the first of the McIntosh children born in Aberdeen, shortly after the family returned from Ireland. It is possible that Gordon has a different father to Mary's grandfather John, as they only share a small amount of Irish relatives and none from the McIntosh side. Gordon was the father of Kathy Reardon's mother, so with all the DNA matches now connecting, it was concluded that James McIntosh was Mary's father. Apparently, James was employed as a cooper in 1948, making barrels for the thriving herring industry. Stornoway was the busiest herring port back when it was thriving and would have required coopers to produce the barrels for the influx of fishing boats from the east coast of Scotland. It is not known if Mary MacDonald and James McIntosh were in a relationship, but what is probable is that James left Stornoway at some point to follow the fishing fleet as the shoals of herring made their way to the north of Scotland and over to the east coast. Thanks to DNA family discoveries, Mary Smith now has closure after a lifetime of not knowing. For her family, and her future descendants, the branches of their family tree will no longer be bare, and they will know their origins in the fishing towns of northern Scotland. If you've taken a DNA test and you need help with building your family tree, identifying your DNA matches, or, like Mary, need help to identify a biological parent, then please get in touch. We offer a free initial consultation, and all projects are treated with the strictest confidence.